everybody. Welcome to Best Whole New World. This is Tree Talk with Flora Rudolph, and she is. I am just sitting in my nice comfy chair, but she is where she loves to be, in the trees. Which tree are you with right now, Flora?
Well, I'm with this witch hazel, and I would never have stopped here except I was here a couple days ago, and I was doing what it's doing right now, which is
Mhm.
like unbelievable. It's a huge tree for witch hazel, and
Uh-huh.
it's got little spidery lemon yellow things. Can you see them?
Yep.
With deep red burgundy centers, and then the old leaves are still here, and it's putting out new shoots for next year. And somewhere there are the seeds going as well. The fruit is already happening, but I don't know where that is because I read about it. And it does all these things at one time.
So it's basically got old growth, new growth, is up and coming growth. And what's the other one?
It's got the flower and the fruit.
The flower and the fruit. That is highly rare. If ever, does it occur anywhere else?
I don't know. I don't know. I'll find out maybe on my travels. But yeah, it's amazing. And I was really struck by the beautiful old leaves here with all the new stuff coming out. And this lemon yellow, it's like a really soft kitten, you know?
Mhm.
And up against the really beautiful blue early spring sky. It's just stunning. And everything else is still looking kind of wintry. And this thing's going on. It's spectacular. And I came here last time and
Uh-huh.
then again today earlier. And I came knowing last time I had little bits of grief that I wanted to process when I came up to the trees. I didn't think I was coming to this tree up
Right.
this, and it, I it did that for me. Completely wiped it clear, even with the old leaves. Still here, the old stuff. And then today I was here for like quite a while, and I was just really tuning into this tree, and I just felt like it was working on my heart in some deep way.
Ah.
And then this wonderful, just like nice came over, you know? Um, and I read about it as well, and it is for that. It's for heartbreak and such. So it's cool I love it when I end up at a tree randomly, and then I go back and find out that's what people have done with that kind of tree for a long time, you know?
Well, um, so isn't witch hazel though like an astringent?
Yeah. It's like major body stuff, skin, eyes, all those kinds of things. And I think it's the bark and the leaves that they use for that primarily. But that's been used forever. I guess Indians were using that and gave the recipe to Mr. Pons.
Well, yeah, but maybe it has to do with the fact that you said that might be for heartbreak too, because the heart really does pump the blood to all the other organs, right?
Yeah,
So if it clarifying the heart, then everything else is probably coming back into balance.
good point. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
So do all four things do you know, are they there every season, or is it just at this particular point in time that you have the fruit and the flower and the old leaves and the new?
it's just in winter. It's just when it's blooming, when it's doing all of these parts together. And it's like kind of a getting comfortable here, kind of an early, obviously early bloomer. You may have them in Canada as well. I think you do. Not sure. In which case it probably blooms. It might even bloom earlier, like more like November, December.
Okay.
But it's pretty spectacular. What they've got here is a huge collection of. There are four like North American variety, or two North American varieties I read, and one from China and one from Japan. And so they've got all these species around. Some of them are kind of a burgundy color instead of yellow. They're really cool. And then others have long catkins. Don't know why that happens, but I'm so a beginner. But anyway, that's what makes the discovery fun, though.
Yeah, well, as you said, you were drawn to the tree, right? And then you discovered more about the tree. Now, is there any reason you think you would have been drawn to this tree?
Well, I think I wanted to process those things that I was, came up here to process. A little bit of grief, a little bit of like needing to move on and unsettled feelings. And I actually walked past it, and then it was like came back, and it's like, well, I'm really intent to go somewhere else, but I stayed here. And then even today, when I was thinking about doing this talk, it was like, is it going to be witch hazel or spruce? Witch hazel or spruce? Very, very different.
Right.
And because it's so beautiful right now in the middle of winter,
Mm-hmm.
have this happening, and because we have like 57 degrees today, it's incredible.
Beautiful. Yeah.
And little flowers are blooming. It's great. So I'm here. And so I was looking up, there's a hazel, which I think is, very, very big in Europe.
Uh-huh.
But we have filbert trees, hazelnut trees, but I think they're not quite as powerful and big as sounds like they're not quite the same, almost. Couldn't figure that out. But they are a bit different species than the witch hazel, as it turns. But both of them are used for dowsing, for all of that, and for like connecting with the earth in that way and divining. It's cool. And especially the hazel has more of those stories around it. But the witch hazels, I think I was feeling like I've been tuning into deeply to what cultures have believed about trees and how they've related to trees, and fell upon that idea that people believed that all these cultures all over the world believed we came from trees. And then I'm thinking, so what does that have to do with people who are driving around trying to figure out what to do with their kids today? You know what I mean? Or going to the dentist, or what is the different life activities? And it feels like pulling it back to the witch hazel, which is more like all of this nurturing, caring for your body,
Mm-hmm.
along with the lore that goes in, all the stories that people have had and the connections that people have had about trees, and believing that we actually sprang from trees and that we're made of trees. And the Romans believed that oaks opened up and people walked out, the first people. The Thor, and where is it? Scandinavia, I think. Believed, he was the god that created the first man and woman from an ash tree, a man, Aska, or something like that was his name, sort of like Adam. And Imbla from the elm tree was the female, sort of like Eve.
Right.
It's so cool. And that was like way before the whole Christian era and the Judeo-Christian. Right. But people have just believed this. And you look at every culture, every small culture, every large culture, a lot of Australian beliefs about people emerging from trees, and Japanese.
Well, go ahead.
Go ahead. What were you saying?
I was going to say there is a lot of talk these days about when you're doing meditation to ground yourself like a tree, like the roots, and be like the leaves, with your just, being able to go flexible with where the universe is sort of pulling you. So, when we start to use analogies in a conscious way, I usually feel that's symbolic of an unconscious connection.
Yes, we have deep roots with trees, and they were central to our everything that we did as early humans, and that's not so far along. It's not that far ago, and it's still where we retreat when someone dies. We plant a tree. When someone's born, we plant a tree. It's very close to us, and I think the more that we can remember these connections and reconnect with a tree that calls to you,
right,
the deeper our life will be, and the more clear our life will be. Yeah.
So I'm going to take you back here because you said you're walking to process a little bit of grief. So is this the idea for people that are watching this, is that typically somebody has a little bit of grief or a little bit of stress in their life, and they usually might go to talk to a friend, or they might decide they need a drink to calm down, or they may go to a coach. But what you're saying is when you felt that way, you go to a tree.
Right.
And you basically go to the trees in a sense and feel guided to a particular tree.
Yes.
And in this particular day, it was the witch hazel. And then so the witch hazel, after spending time with the witch hazel, you know, do you talk to the witch hazel like someone would talk to their friend and say, "Oh, are you just present? Do you hug the tree?" Like people are going, "What? You just went to the trees and you got rid of your grief? Like that would be so easy, and I don't have to listen to anybody else's opinions."
That's right. I mean, it's wonderful. You know, connecting with people is fabulous, obviously, in what we do. But this is so beautiful. It's, I don't necessarily say it out loud. I don't
Right.
think I have it in me,
Mm-hmm.
my energy and what is here. And that's all that needs to happen to connect at that place. I lean into the tree. This tree is not a huge, big tree like a big cedar or something. It's a little
Mm-hmm.
shrub tree, you know, that size.
Right.
And this is a large one of those. But just leaning into it again, smelling it, that just gets you there. Really looking closely, like at these beautiful flowers and the leaves that are still here. And so you walk by, you don't even notice all this going on necessarily.
Right.
Um, and right now, of course, because they're blooming, they smell amazing. It's just amazing. Um, and then it just starts working on you. It just starts happening. You may get, often I've gotten thoughts or ideas of things to do
Mm-hmm.
from different trees, or just clarity around something very quickly. But this one is a different, it's more like just a lightning. Maybe because it's heart grief. And it's just this lightning and really soft, like these, joy. And then I feel like I'm really here on the earth. I'm really walking here. You know, I'm not up here.
Right. You're grounded. Your roots, you know, you brought all that energy in down with you, and you're not circling the head about whatever the
Yeah.
stories or the emotions.
Or the decision that needs to be made or whatever. So it works for all those levels. And then when that, excuse my nose itches, it's from this tree, I think, from the, when the processing has happened,
Mm-hmm.
then it's like I just got this guidance to tune in, just to open and let go and be here and tune in at a much deeper level and let all of this just occur. And I mean, it's gorgeous. You know, that is, I think, why all these spiritual, enlightened people have gone to trees. You know, Buddha, Krishnamurti, on, forever. And we still continue to do that. So, because they interact with our energy fields in such a good way, like nothing else. Like you say, with people, there's, you know, people are like you can't replace, you know, communicating with people, but you do get their opinions. That's all you can get is their perspective and their twist on things. With a tree, it's just beautiful, simple clarity.
And it's sounds to me like when you're with the tree, you said you might be thinking things. So it's your you're going being you versus going with the intention that you have to meditate and quiet your mind. You know what I mean? Like you're not
Oh,
meditating with the tree, you're being with the tree. I just
and
want that distinction for everybody, right?
right, exactly. Yeah, right. Um, when I was deeply needing to heal my brain injury,
Mm-hmm.
like whenever that was ago, um, I spent like 3 or 4 hours just really intensely came here with that a purpose. I've got to do this. I've got to figure out the way for this to
Mm-hmm.
happen. It's got to open. I can't do this anymore. And just sat on the ground and wandered from tree to tree to find the right one and kept move. You know, I get something and then it was like, there's more, go somewhere else. And I just did that. And finally I ended up with the hornbeams, which we'll have to meet as soon as I start to leaf. Um, and was given all of this instruction, including the fact that I would meet you
Right.
and to be open to meeting you. And then we did
But
that.
they didn't give my name. Okay, let's be clear.
Oh,
They did not reveal my name.
a couple days at 10 o'clock, they said, you will meet someone who will be like a partner. Be open to this person and, communicate, participate in what's going on. Do it. And I had forgotten about that message until I listened, because I record them often, because you go into a state almost like a dream sometimes.
Right.
Fades out if you don't write it down or record it on your phone, whatever.
Right.
So it was when I was listening to that again that I found that direct revelation, and it was then after I had been with them for that, I don't know, 3 or 4 hour period. I left with deep peace, but I wasn't healed by any means. I hadn't started that.
Right.
But I was very peaceful and calm, and I knew I had said my piece. I had said my thing. I had put it out there in a big way.
Right.
And confidence that I would get answers. Because that's how it works.
Right.
So I don't know. There's sometimes I've had, for a long period of time during that, I'll diverge a bit, brain injury deal. I simply couldn't gather my energies enough to do that. But then it was time, and I was able, and I did that, connected with you, healed. Everybody, she healed me, right?
I didn't hear. I was the catalyst, just like the tree brings that sense of presence. Somehow between the two of you and I and the presence that worked between us, it brought you back into who you really are.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so that's how the trees have worked for me. And that for the entire range of just wandering down the path, ending up in the Witchhazel.
Yeah.
And with, just a little bit of stuff to process versus a huge, huge healing that needed to occur that I hadn't been able to pull into myself.
So I just got this little nudge here. Did I just sort of denounce that? Like, because I that's not what I meant, Flora. So I thank you for expressing your feelings about me healing you. I just wanted I feel like it's a part of that, but I feel like it's the energy and the correlation of the unity that brought it forward. So I don't want to like dismiss it.
No, I think
okay.
Yeah, I think we healed me. If I hadn't been right there, and if I hadn't, had my history that correlated with your history and mindsets, we couldn't have done it.
Right.
Yeah, etc. It was a great thing that came together, and
it was a partnership.
Yeah, exactly. So
just like the trees said. There you go.
Like the tree said to me. You can just come out and, people, of course, like maple tree is a perfect example. Summer afternoon, big maple tree spreading next to a river, just have a picnic. It's that kind of, experience versus a deep purging or whatever. But I found it on all the pieces. I've been guided to the right tree always for what's going on and what I'm interested in unfolding.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's trusting that process. So in meeting a tree, right, and in this conversation of tree talk, you are open to trusting when you go into the trees and feeling guided. So for the novice, for the beginner that has really knows they like the trees, but they've never really thought about them as supporting them in helping their transformation, any suggestions?
Yes. Just it's so simple. Just know that. It's find a tree that you like, that you think is beautiful or that looks lovely or that just something how it calls your energy to it. And just go be with it. You can sit under it and feel the roots and the tree around you. You can lean back into it and have your whole chakra system on your backside of your body open up to it. The way I like to meet it is to put my palms flat on the tree, boom, and my forehead on it, and lean into it and just smell it after you've looked at it a bit, because that is transporting it. That seems to work synergistically with the energy of the tree releasing and the fragrance coming. And I found that the more the tree energy releases to me, we connect, the greater the fragrance grows. So there's this interchange that happens. The trees, I used to feel like I don't want to give them my grief or my anything because I don't want to hurt them, you know? But they transform it. That's the cool thing. It's like our CO2 or whatever, carbon dioxide. They transform it and process it. It's a clean up thing that they do, and it doesn't seem to be interfering whatsoever with their own constancy.
Yeah, I had this morning, Rosaria in England was saying that she had come across an English ivy that cleans the air, or not just in her bathroom. It was like there were other areas in her house had black mold. And they're like, well, it'd be in the bathroom. And she's like, not in the bathroom. And she realized, oh, she has an English ivy plant in there. And when she looked that up, English ivy is something that handles black mold. So trees, plants are naturally churning our environment, our air all the time. And they're just doing it naturally. Yeah. They're holding the space. They're just saying, hey, if you want some, come and visit us.
Right, exactly. But they are, I mean, they're working.
All the time.
All the time. And the other thing we don't think about so often is that their roots go way down into the planet. Mm-hmm. You know, they're sensing all the little movements and changes that are occurring in the earth.
Right.
They're just this incredible being. And, you know, the shamans way back to what people have thought forever. Mm-hmm. People believe that shamans were born in trees, you know.
Ah, that makes sense where that comes from, yeah.
The higher up, the bigger the shaman, or the greater the shaman. And so, but they had it, you know, they have it divided into 3 areas, 3 zones, which is the underworld where you go meet your guides. Mm-hmm. You connect at that level and you meet your spirit guide or your animal guide, and you get answers, mm-hmm. which is sort of like a deep meditation. A little bit different. They believe it's a real occurrence, not in your mind being, but it's a real thing that happens. And then there's the middle world, which is where we live. Mm-hmm. Tree trunk. Right. And then there's the upper world, which is where all the more celestial, ephemeral, refined ideas and beings will live, and you'll meet a guide up there as well. But it's a different kind of energy and connection and information. Mm-hmm. And all of that is related to a tree. It always has been. It's all tree. I mean, they can go anywhere and do that, but they primarily use a tree to enter into those realms and to return back to the world, the middle world.
Do you know those big, super tall trees in the Amazon? Have you ever seen that, like where they have tree houses way up? I've seen them like on the National or whatever it is, the Planet Earth series. Uh-huh. You know, they're like 300 feet up. So that's what made me, when you talked about a shaman coming from the tree, I was like, what type of big man?
Yeah, wow. The redwoods in California.
Well, yeah, that's another one, right? Mm-hmm.
Have an entire world up there, you know?
Yeah.
Well,
you could definitely live inside those trunks.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. So, but then here I am with this small Witchhazel, mm-hmm. in all of its glory, doing all of these lovely things, and it's doing all the skin care, eye care, all this body health for us, nurturing, and it's processing grief. As part of what it does. It also can help you douse for a well.
Multi-purposes. It's definitely a female tree.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of it. Yes, it is. Many trees are either male or female. This is female. Yeah.
This is female. Yeah. Okay. And she's got a bush. No, she's no.
Yeah.
Okay. So in what you need to do then is find out where your nearest witch hazel trees are, right? And connect if you're having any grief. If you need direction on getting a tree medicine, for instance, a tree prescription. That's something else Flora is really great at. So she can tell you what type of trees, and you can reach out to her at treeloveconnect.com or on her new Facebook page.
Tree Love Connect.
There you go.
Yes, thank you, Jacqueline. So you may not have a witch hazel, but there'll be other trees in your area that will help. You're in the right place for the right trees.
I like that saying, you're in the right place for the right trees. And that is how we're going to sign off today.
Thank you very much. Lovely to see you.
See you. Bye. Thanks, everybody.